it's time to go live. So you know the format for the first 45 minutes or so. Okay, we are live. So namaste, Bindiya ma'am.
Namaste, Jerry. How are you?
All well, and namaste to ma'am, Nishan sir. Welcome to the Inspire Rex conversation that we have with all our Rex Karmavir Global Fellows and Karmavir Puraskar Award recipients like you. So you had quite a journey with us. You started as a fellow, right? And then you got
Yes,
the Karmavir Jyoti last year. If
that's
I'm
right.
right, brilliant. Yeah, so not bad. Yeah, so we can remember. Okay, and of course, your mom Sudhaji is one of our Karmavir Puraskar Award recipients and a Karmavir Maharatna now.
Yeah.
Amazing work that she's doing in the space of cancer. And is she with you in the Nilgiris or is she in Delhi?
No, she was here till last week. She left sometime in mid or late October is when she left,
Right.
and back in Delhi now.
And how is
We
her
have to
health?
well.
She is doing touch wood. She's all right, busy
Good.
working with her cancer crusades and spreading awareness
Very
and doing
nice.
the lovely things that she does. Yeah.
And she's running the same organization, right?
She's now head of a conglomerate of cancer NGOs.
Right. Right.
So she kind of oversees and pushes for different laws to be passed and makes
Oh,
sure
I
that
see.
all.
Okay. Now, what's that called?
Uh, you'll have to ask her. I'm sorry, I've just
Okay,
forgotten.
okay. All right, great. So welcome to the InspireX conversation once again. And the idea is that you would be having a cool, casual conversation with our co-founder and host, Miss Itu with Chopra, who I think it'll be a good jugalbandi because both of you are in that space of healing, emotional therapy, spiritual therapy, mental healing, right? Mental
Yeah.
peeling, whatever. Yeah, so for the next 45 minutes or so you all will have a conversation, and then I'll join you in the last 15 minutes to provoke some thought and intimidate you a little with
Oh,
provocative therapy, right? And imbalance your mental health a little. So
yeah, maybe that's
that's what I'll do in the last 15 minutes.
my
All
internet
right, over to
connection.
you, Etu. Thank you. All the best,
Thank you.
Bindya. Yes.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry. See you soon.
Thanks for starting, it on a very humorous note, as he calls it, his provocative therapy. And so to say, let's we have to do a dance of whatever we do in this space. So happy to have you, Bindya, with us in the InspireX conversation series that we have on Monday. And I'm not going to delve too much into the formal greetings and meetings. I'm going to directly dive into the conversation because the focal point is the learning that we're going to derive from your journey and this conversation. So, Abhinaya, just tell me and take us all, the viewers, everyone, through your growing up years and, of course, the media days, where you created quite a buzz. Tell us about your Blue Mango Media Group. A lot of first there, satellite TV days amongst first five influential women on TV Asia and all of that. I want you to take us through that journey because there's a huge learning, and then you left all of that and moved into another. You shifted gears. So tell us about first growing up and all of that.
Well, growing up was, my dad was in the army. So the initial few years we were going from station to station, getting posted around the place. But then pretty soon, my sister and I, we had a gap of about 5 years. So at that point, they figured that education and stability of a school was very important. So most of our growing Itu, are you there? Did I lose you for a minute?
Yeah, even I don't know. Is the Wi-Fi strong, Bindya, at your end?
Yeah,
You said
yeah,
that
it
it
is.
was strong.
Yeah, it seems okay now. I think there was just a drop for a minute.
Yeah, there was a drop for a moment. Yeah. Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
want to move to a place
So,
where it is strongest?
no, this is the strongest.
All right, great
I
then.
can see you perfectly and hear you as well. If it breaks again, we'll see what to do.
All right.
Yeah. So I was just saying that, yeah, growing up, studies, school was mostly in Delhi, in the Army Public School. After which there was college, which was at Delhi University. I joined the Hindu college. I was studying there. And college was very little about studying, and it was a lot about going every day, but lolling around in the canteen, sitting under the tree, listening to people sing, and just about having a good time more than anything. And there were 3 beautiful years. And I have to say, at that time, I was quite clueless, and I had no idea what I wanted to do after college. Unlike a lot of people who have a set plan and they know, okay, this is our focused path and all. So life kind of just happened. Just as I was finishing college, those were the days when satellite television was just coming in to India. And there's a company called Fremantle, which is one of the largest format holders for TV shows, nonfiction TV shows across the world.
mm, mm, mm,
So they're the guys who own Idol and all the big shows that you see, the format shows, and they were coming into India at the time. So
mm,
just so happened that someone said, "Oh, why don't you come and just interview?" Even though I had no formal background as such for any
mm,
in television training, but I'd done a lot of freelance stuff, through
mm,
college, through school and stuff, in documentary filmmaking and so on. So I went, I joined, and I just took to it like fish in water. It was just wonderful. And it was such a charged atmosphere. And anything which is new, like, if you remember those times, there was just everything was new and everyone was enthusiastic and curious, and we were all working so hard. So the television journey started off like that. And
mm,
my mentors, the people I worked with, a lot of them were also people who'd been abroad. I mean, there were people, executive producers who would come from the UK who'd been doing that for several years. So the training we got was also so solid, though it was on the job. I think it was better than any training you could have got in a school or any other formal institution. So, well, television then continued to happen because I really enjoyed it. And most of the shows we did at the time were big studio shows. So, large crews, 100, 200 people, everything was shot as though it was live television. There was very little scope for error. So, we were all kind of very military like in the way our foundations were laid in television as well. And it was great fun, and I did that for a few years. Moved to Bombay, worked there, made ads, TV commercials, music videos, worked for a channel, did all of that, and finally, just realized that although it was very exciting, and at that time doing music videos was the height of creativity and creative expression that you could have, because we could just do so much and have so much fun with it. So I had a really nice time doing that. But I think somewhere along Itu, after doing it for maybe, I think 8, 9 years, I just felt that I didn't want to be in, I wanted to be in production, but I didn't want to be in that space of TV commercials and music videos and all of that, which although it paid really well, the gestation was small and brief, so you
mm.
could turn things out
Wrapping
faster.
it up.
But
Yeah.
it left you feeling very hollow, and all the interactions you had with the people, they were so artificial and fake and
Superficial.
very superficial. And so
Mm,
from there on, I started sort of saying that if I do this, I want to veer more into the documentary space,
mm,
because at least there's more, teeth to the matter, so to say, and you can
right.
explore so much more in terms of
Right.
the depth of content that you create. And so I moved
True.
to Delhi. And because at that time, Delhi was the hub of all the nonfiction, Discovery, NGC, BBC,
Yeah.
everyone was, headquartered out of there. So moved back there, and got married to my wonderful partner, Raj. And both of us started Blue Mango. And we said, okay, let's do this together. We hadn't worked together before. So we said, okay, why not take the plunge? He was from an entertainment background. I was from production, television, film, all of that. So we just started Blue Mango as a non-fiction TV production house based out of Delhi. And then Discovery was just launching its India programming. So their flagship show happened to be produced and directed by me and by Blue
Mm,
Mango. And then we did a lot more work with Discovery, with National Geographic. And that kind of is where the real satisfaction started coming from,
mm,
because you were going across the length and breadth of the country, not just looking for beautiful locations, but looking for meaningful stories, and
right.
got to meet such interesting people and tell their stories. And there was such learning in that, your exposure just exponentially increases with that.
Right, right.
So that was, quite a turning point, and it was a very interesting twist in the journey from just everything very glossy and glamorous to
Yeah,
getting really down and dirty and real about stuff.
yeah.
So that's how that journey kind of meandered as far as the television and production part is concerned.
That's also one of the traits of the true Karamveer, as we say, that they just don't do things for the superficial level. They do it, they look for the inner things. How do you make a change? How do you bring about change? And that's what you were looking for, All of it seems very nice. And the sooner we are able to focus on what we want to really do, what makes us happy, what draws our passion and purpose together, is what we were looking for. Then, in the journey of your blue mango, share with us the highlight of, this human condition that you wanted to tell through the medium of storytelling, and share the anecdotes behind this, that how specifically the documentary, The Monk of Comic, that went on to get a lot of acclaim and fame at Cannes, etc. That particular documentary, I'm going to ask her to join again. Sorry about that. So Bindiya is in a very, very small village in Nilgiris, and the internet seems to be having a issue. So we're going to have Bindiya back with us in a moment. She is in a very, very small village in Nilgiri Hills, very close to Ooty, and internet seems to be playing up at this point of time with her. So pardon us for that. So the most used term of COVID times has been, am I audible? Am I visible? And that's been happening a lot with us in our conversation series. We've been experiencing this, and also speaking the phrase, am I audible? Am I visible? All the time. So we're waiting for Bindiya to join us again. Yeah.
Ito, can
Yes.
you see
Hi,
me?
Bindia. Yes, yes. Namaste again.
Namaste, and sorry about
I'm
this.
really that.
Yeah.
So we've been, yeah. So we have been talking a lot about the fact that the most used term and phrase of 2020 COVID times is, "Am I audible? Can you hear me? It's just
Yes.
connecting. Hold on for," and we experience that a lot. So let's talk about the highlight of human condition through the medium of storytelling, through your very very acclaimed documentary, The Monk of Comic, which had which received critical acclaim at Cannes, etc. Go ahead, Bindya.
Itu, it was a very interesting journey with that. That was never meant for anything related to festivals or anything commercial, even though that's what we were doing at the time. But the
Right.
documentary just happened at the spur of the moment because we used to travel a lot, my husband and I, to Spiti. At a time, I'm talking about 17, 18 years ago, where nobody used to go to Spiti in their right mind because there were hardly any roads. It would take you 2.5, 3 days. That too, you never knew when a landslide would happen. You could be stuck for days at end. So when we started going to Spiti, it was very, very untouched. It was
Mm,
just this ancient Buddhist civilization stuck in the upper Himalayas in the middle of nowhere, cut off for 6 months in a year from the rest of the world because of the winter. And there's a monastery over there called the Komik Monastery. And that monastery and the Sakya monastery, they're very, very dear to the two of us. We've got very dear friends there, we've got deep connections there. But right in the beginning, soon after we started going there, we saw that the Komik monastery, because it wasn't as well funded as some of the other monasteries, because it's a
mm,
very humble looking monastery, doesn't look as dramatic, hanging by a cliffside. And those are the kind of monasteries which were still getting funding from, foreign donors and so on. But Komik was completely ignored. So we said, okay, what can we do to help and to raise some funds for the monastery?
mm,
And the only thing we knew at the time was how to make films. So we didn't go with a crew. We had just gone gently on one of the trips and we were staying at the monastery. And we had this small little camera, which wasn't even a fully professional camera. We just happened to be carrying it with us. And we
mm,
said, okay, let's just document a day in the life of a Buddhist monk. And that's what Monk from Comic is. It's called Monk from Comic, A Day in the Life of a Buddhist Monk. And it's very fly on the wall. So
mm,
none of it was dramatized, or no, there were no repeat shots of like, can you do this again, and so on.
mm,
We just followed one monk, Lama Karzan, from
mm,
morning to night and said,
mm,
okay, let's just document what a Buddhist monk's life is, because people seem to have some crazy misconceptions of, oh, they must be levitating and, all kinds of stories fly around. But
yeah,
we just captured the simplicity of the routine of one simple monk. And
right,
I think somewhere that touched such a chord with people across board. And when we premiered it, in fact, Parikrama, the band, they did the music for it, and we did a nice large premiere for it at the Habitat where Parikrama and we got some of the monks. So they
mm,
jammed together, and it was just beautiful. It was just
mm,
goosebump moment, and everybody who came there wanted to contribute in some way or the other. And
mm,
that's how the genesis of the film, even going outside of India, happened, because we just wanted to raise awareness and say, if you can chip in some way, whether it's financially or, temperatures go down to -30 in the winter, people are really poor. So if you can even maybe send woolens, or like we had a German Thangka painter who said, I don't have anything else to offer, but I can help with restoration. So all kinds of people came, and the film went to Cannes and it was showcased there and got, of course, from there a lot of traction, and then went across and did a huge festival circuit across, different countries. But it was nice that it happened, but the main purpose of the film was only to highlight the condition of the monastery, of the monks, and to be able to help them in some way, which did seem to happen quite wonderfully well with it. So that was the story of Monk from Comic. And unfortunately, soon after, the film was actually, launched and it was out there, a lot of people wanted to invite Lama Karzan, who was the main protagonist, to different countries as a speaker, as a guest, and so on. And this is how life turns and twists. He had been in the monastery since the age of 3. And at 40 something, his entire family, they committed suicide. His parents, his brother, it was farmer's suicide because they had a loan of some 40,000 rupees they could not repay back. So he had to leave the monastery, and he didn't know a way of life outside the monastery because he was there since the age of 3. And he
Hmm.
had to become a casual laborer just to support his brother's children, to be able to put food on their plate. So, how life changes, the twists and turns, and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
human stories
yeah.
where they meander around. So it was very poignant on so many different levels. It was just a very moving journey with that film and with just that person.
I know. So you know how greatness lies in simplicity, and how extraordinary is in ordinariness of life, and that's what we at Rex celebrate. You've been part of the journey for more than a decade with us, and you've seen the power of simplicity and the power of great ideas and the power of absolutely ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And and I suppose this was also the turning point of you, to see how powerful storytelling can be, and how you can
Mhm.
give back, and how when you begin on a path, you don't know what greatness you can achieve, um, at very, very many different levels. So that was also probably a turning point for you, where the shift in the gear happened in the mind about a lot of things for you. Yes.
It was actually, you could say, the thing is, it wasn't a very linear journey in the shift,
True, true.
because things were getting percolated into life, incidents were happening. There were different things which caused pain, which caused growth, which caused a better understanding, a different understanding of life. And
Right.
as all things were happening, I think that shift was happening very, very slowly in the back.
Subtly. Yeah.
So it wasn't, if you were to say what was that one defining moment when the shift happened, I can't tell you what that was, because I
Yeah.
think it just happened like a parallel process, but it was kind of rumbling, rumbling, rumbling in the background. It was
Yeah.
like this background score was getting louder and
Yeah.
louder, and
Yeah.
you couldn't ignore it anymore. And you said, okay,
Yeah.
let's make a shift and see
Yeah.
how both can happen parallelly, because that's what happened. Like, so it wasn't that I transitioned, like left one profession and got
Yeah.
into another.
Yeah.
I literally kind of was doing both parallelly till I finally completely moved into the mental health space.
Yeah. So
Else.
that's how, when the din becomes too loud, you've got to. Are you with us, Bindia?
Itu,
Are you with us, Bindia? Yeah, I got you back again.
very much so.
Yeah. So, I was just saying that when the din around you becomes louder and louder, and kind of, cajoles you to find a path. Are you there, Bindia? Have I lost you again? Are you there, Bindia? Bindia, can you hear me? I've lost her again. Apologies to everyone for this. Bindia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Itu, are you there? I can see you, hear you. I hope you
Cross,
can too.
cross, cross our fingers and sit now and say a little prayer. You know that
All
song?
crossed. This is
Say
what I'm
a little
supposed
prayer.
to do, Jenny.
Yeah. You know that
Yeah,
song?
I'm
Say a
saying
little
many
prayer.
prayers.
Yeah.
Of course.
So Bindiya, I'm going to ask you very quickly. You also ventured on this project, Blue Mango Young Movie Makers, where you uh, took to this project of with children, where self-expression through the voice or and opinions through the medium of storytelling through movies. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah. So this we started doing these workshops for kids, which were digital movie making workshops,
Hmm. Hmm.
and this was in 2004 or five, something I think 4, 5, somewhere around there. And the whole idea was that since technology was becoming a little more accessible, there were
Hmm.
kids now who had access to digital cameras, that how do you help them express themselves and the things that they believe in through their own unfiltered minds? And how
True.
to teach them to tell a story and do this expression visually? Because the visuals on the whole are a very powerful medium of expression. Sometimes
Yeah.
they can be even more powerful than just writing, or because there's so many senses involved.
Yeah.
So the idea of the entire workshop was that kids have so many thoughts running through in their
Hmm.
mind. But
Hmm.
oftentimes, if you tell them, okay, make them singular and let's make a story out of it, they find it very difficult to do. And we had kids from the age of 6 to 16. So
Right.
that was the band. And six, they're
Hmm.
really, really young. But
Right.
they surprised us by coming up with such amazing little films. And
Yeah.
there was a point where sometimes they would come with something, but it would look like it was very heavily influenced by the parents. And the
Right.
only thing that we kept emphasizing throughout the workshop was that it's got to be your idea. You've got to shoot it yourself. Do not
Right.
involve your parents. It doesn't matter how it looks, but it's got to come from you. So sometimes it was hilarious because I would send them back and say, no, tell your parents that they
Not
can't
to.
help. It has to be your story.
Yeah.
So they would redo it and come back. And it was absolutely magical, really, really magical.
Yeah.
And then um, that whole workshop and the films that got created over there, those culminated into the Blue Mango Movie Makers Festival. And
Yeah.
so we had a festival where all the films were showcased. That eventually went into the Limca Book of Records as the first digital
Right.
movie
Right.
making festival in India. And it was just, it was an incredible, incredible experience.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
unfortunate thing that happened in the terms of how I wanted to take it forward was that I was really keen that kids from lesser privileged backgrounds who cannot afford this equipment also get to tell their stories. And it was
Hmm.
unfortunate because so many of the big brands that we approached and we said, could you give these cameras for these children to use and tell their stories?
Hmm.
Kids on the street, kids who
Hmm.
are working at the age of
Hmm.
4 and 5, and they have so many stories to tell. And
Hmm.
all of them at that time turned around and said, no, but that's not our target audience. They cannot afford our
Hmm.
cameras, so we cannot sponsor for them. We will sponsor for the more affluent kids who can eventually buy our cameras. But, they didn't need the sponsorship. So it was sad that we couldn't kind of see through with the lesser privileged kids. And that, kind of remains one little regret on that end for me, because we couldn't afford to buy the cameras ourselves and give it to them. But I wish that story had kind of meandered that way, and we could have also been able to tell the stories of those children, and they could have told their own stories. That would have been wonderful. So
So,
that's what really happened.
so maybe
It
sometime
was,
you will get to pick up those threads and work on it. And what comes out that parents still interfere in kids' creativity and kids' endeavor is a story that on a lot of levels need to be discussed. That narrative is also there, uh, and that it also interferes then with their mental health. It
yeah,
does, but they in their all encompassing love, as they call parents, as we are wanting to kind of help them out, god knows for
yeah,
what, because then it's not their work, it's the parents work. And there
yeah.
are a lot of stories around that. But tell me, I want to come back to mental fitness coach that you are, myriad of work that you do around mindfulness, um, meditation, emotional hygiene. give us a detailed account of that, because that's something very, very close to the work that we are doing at Rex in the program that we are launching for the youth, uh, and how important this whole digital wellness is as well. Because mental health has a huge array of things that come into it. It's not just depression or anxiety or just mental health. It's a lot of things. Tell us about that,
Mhm.
Vindhya.
So, when I started out, Itu, it
Mm,
was my primary area of interest, how I actually got drawn to the whole aspect of mental health as something I wanted to do professionally, was because the infrastructure available in this country is so poor. It was even
true.
poorer 15 years ago when I started out. At least now there's awareness. People are talking, more and more people are coming
Mm,
into the field.
mm,
But 15 years ago, your only options was either you go to a psychiatrist who would probably talk to you for 10 minutes, give you a prescription, send you home. And a lot of times I had seen it firsthand with people very close to me. There
mm.
was dependence on medication that happened,
Yeah,
over dependence, abuse of medicine, addiction that happened, and nothing
right.
got sorted because there are a lot of mental health issues which you do not need medication for, which
True.
can be sorted through different sorts of therapies, which are non
Yeah,
medication based therapies. And
yeah,
they're only, in fact, the minority of the issues that need medication. So everyone is so happy to give it out. And I thought it was really important at that time to, in whatever little way, start creating some sort of a tiny little opportunity for people to seek a different kind of help should they want it. And
mm,
clearly, over the past few decades, our mental health has only become worse and worse. It's not become better. And
yeah,
our social infrastructures, our the whole family, large family systems that we had earlier that we would bank on, they're all crumbling.
true.
Even personal connections with friends, we're talking to them more on social media or even via text than we're actually talking face to face. And that cannot replace human interaction. And therefore, it, impacts your mental health.
Yeah.
So that's the basic premise for me to get into it was this. And as I started getting into it, I realized that I wanted a toolkit. I didn't
Mm,
just want to focus on one kind of thing. Like it shouldn't just be counseling, but I would
mm,
also need to perhaps sometimes different people layer it with hypnotherapy or with NLP or with mindfulness, because I use mindfulness a lot actually throughout my processes with my clients, no matter what the issues may be, because it's such a helpful thing for everyone to embrace.
yeah, yeah.
So over a period of time, that toolkit kept building up, and I hope it'll keep building up forever. Really, there's no end to it.
Mm,
And so I started with individual sessions with people. Then I also started doing a retreat model, which was for groups. Then
right.
it was about inner wellness. We would do stuff in Spiti, in Bhutan, and of course now here in the Nilgiris. But still, the big focus of what I do remains individual or group, small group based therapies, because those are way more effective where mental health is concerned for specific
Yeah,
problems. You can't sit in a
absolutely.
group and talk about, all your like really private things. So
Right.
in the group, what I do is more mindfulness based, digital wellness based. So I do something called JOMO breaks over here, which are the joy of missing out. So going to the digital part of it, as opposed to the
Yeah,
fear of missing out, it's like,
right.
okay, don't fear. Come experience the joy of missing out and learn how to connect with nature, with yourself, with your thoughts, be comfortable with yourself, be comfortable with other human beings. And those are smaller breaks. They're like weekend to 3 day breaks that people can come and
Mm,
take.
mm,
But the
mm,
reason I, really dive so deep into digital wellness is because I truly believe that in this day and age, that is an important pillar of our wellness. It's not just the
mm,
mind, body, soul anymore, but it is digital wellness as well, because everything almost that we are doing now is more and more related to and dependent and influenced by technology.
true.
And what is happening therefore is that people are not being able to define clear boundaries. They're
Right.
not being able to say that, okay, this is too much. Now I'm getting addicted. Now
Yeah,
I'm over dependent. They are
yeah,
not being able to call that out till it's too late. And there are so many health impacts of that, starting from anxiety, depression, low self esteem, just how you view yourself as a
Mhm.
person in a group scenario, FOMO, of course. Um, and all the people who are actually addicted to technology display the exact same signs of people who are addicted to drugs, because
Right.
a lot of our technology, such as social media and all these rabbit hole sites where you can just keep scrolling, they are designed to be addictive. They use a science of addiction to create
Right.
these kind of sites, to keep you there longer, to keep you engaged
Yeah.
longer. And
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happens is, with all this stimulus that we are getting through all our digital exposure that we have, we're also getting constant dopamine hits. Every time your phone goes ping and you get a message, or you get another like or a heart or something on your social media, you don't realize that you actually get that dopamine hit. So now our brains
Yeah.
are not designed for constant spikes in dopamine through the day.
Right.
And that is what happens when there's too much of that dopamine spiking. It's like a little short circuit, and it
All
creates anxiety. So that's so many times people are saying, what's happening with this generation? Why are they so anxious? One of the
Hmm.
reasons they are so anxious is because they have so much digital noise. It's
True.
always there. Parents are
Yeah.
using devices as nannies now. Your one
Yeah.
year old, 2 year old, here, take the iPad, take the phone, don't bother me, sit quietly for some time.
Yeah.
I'm doing my work. And the kids are hooked on. It's like giving a small child, the keys to your liquor cabinet, really.
You're
So
right.
what's the difference?
Yeah.
They can't tell. So you're getting them addicted at such a young age, and you don't know, they don't know, but they're
Mhm.
growing up like that. And therefore, obviously, it's having an impact on their cognitive functioning, on their mental health, just them as people, their communication skills, their relationship building skills. So these are just some of the reasons because of which I just feel so strongly and passionately that mental
Yeah.
health has to also include digital wellness, and digital wellness on its own has to become more of a topic that's on fire, that everyone needs to talk about, be aware of, and do something about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
That
where
narrative. Yeah.
that's
That
coming
narrative
from.
and this discourse has to be a little louder because it's a bane and a boon, and we have to
Yeah,
know, especially during COVID times, there are no boundaries left. There are no
yeah.
clear cut demarcations because that's what we need to do. So yeah. So tell us more that more about the ways to get out of that, and what are those things that you're doing and the tips that people should kind of stick to.
So the very first thing that we need to keep in mind is that technology is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. It's an
Yeah.
enabler. It helps us do so many things more efficiently.
Right.
It's literally been a lifeline for millions of people during the pandemic.
Yeah.
However, what we miss out is that too much of anything is bad.
Hmm.
So balance is what is really, really important. And
Yeah.
to keep a grip on the fact that there has to be a difference between your real and your virtual life, that you need
True.
to draw a clear line, and that you
Hmm.
need to give as much time to your real
Hmm.
non-virtual life as you
Hmm.
give to your virtual life. And fine, you may be working for 8 hours, you can't help it, you have to be in front of a screen perhaps. Then maybe you need entertainment by the end of it and you're too tired to do anything, so you again want to be in front of a screen and watch something. Fine,
Hmm.
okay, understood. But
Hmm.
there are still little hygiene practices that you can incorporate in your day-to-day life. For
Hmm.
instance, your first hour of the day and your last hour of the day should be completely technology free,
Hmm.
because you don't need that stimulus first thing in the morning. You don't need that toxicity also, because typically you'll open, you'll see some bad news. Your mind is like a clean shirt in the morning, a
Hmm.
nicely laundered white shirt, and then suddenly you're taking a bowl of soup and dropping it all over it early in the morning. You don't need to do
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
let your brain ease into the day and also ease into the technology and before sleeping, because our screens, they have, this blue light that they emit, and it's really bad for our sleep.
Yeah.
Plus, when you're watching something or you're engaged in these endless, going from one tab to another sites, of course, you're going to sleep later. Your sleep is going to get impacted. So, 1 hour before, you need to turn your device off, put it away. Then, you need to create small zones and small timings in your house which are device free. So,
Hmm.
food, for example, you're having
Hmm.
even one meal together as a family, make
Hmm.
sure everyone deposits their phone outside,
Hmm.
comes, sits at the table, and talks to one another, and not keep, looking at the phone, jumping, saying, oh, one message. Anything can wait. And if it's really an emergency, a person will call you enough times and reach out to you. But most of the time, we're not looking at our devices for emergencies. We're just looking because we're hooked.
Yeah.
So, a device free zone, device free timings are really
Hmm.
important, as
Hmm.
are real life interactions. So, don't keep all your interactions text based. Can you replace if someone comes and gives you a nice hug with one huggy emoticon with 100 hearts, or a
Yeah.
nice belly that you can have with a friend when you're just sitting face to face and you're like cracking up about something ridiculous? You
Yeah.
cannot do the same thing when
Yeah.
you're on text, when you're, virtually connected with people. So make time for real life relationships. Make time for yourself to do activities which do not require a device. So,
Hmm.
for instance, if everything now, more and more, we play music from the device, our alarm clock is our device, um, our camera is on the phone as well.
Ev-
So we're just doing everything. So one good thing to do is to segregate devices. If you
Right.
enjoy photography, get a camera which is cheap. It doesn't even have to be expensive, but try to get a camera which literally takes you out of this connectedness and takes you and connects you with your visual instead of just with a screen. So these are some of the, really simple things. And there are, of course, I mean, I can go on. There's a
Yeah.
long list of things, but
Yeah.
this is the, top level stuff everyone can do right away.
Yeah. And in the COVID times, we're feeling. I think that's what one is feeling the most: the work from home, not getting to meet
Yeah.
people you want to meet, not getting that human feelings, and all the time, and wanting to replace not the human interaction with as much as virtual interaction. Then that's having its own effects on all of us, and of course on the youth.
Mm.
uh, Binda, you also write. You've been writing about all these things that in the space of mental health, in the space of self improvement, in the space of mental fitness, emotional hygiene. Why did
Mhm.
you feel the need to write about it, and what? How has it helped you to kind of shift the mindset of people and your readers?
The mindset shift, I think happens
Mm,
the more people get exposed. Because
yeah.
if you're not only exposed to a thought, which is
Mm,
different from
mm,
how you may be operating at the time,
mm,
then how
mm.
would you even want to introduce it into your life? So I think
Right.
writing for me is just a way of saying, okay, here's a solution, or here's a
Mm,
perspective, a way
mm,
of looking or approaching something differently,
mm,
which is there, it exists. You can read it, you can let
mm,
that seed be sown in your mind, and
mm,
then slowly, when you maybe read 4 or 5 times about similar thoughts and ideas, those might start actually
mm.
impacting and creating a gentle little shift in your mindset. At least you start considering, if nothing else, another opinion.
Right.
I find that
Right.
for me, that is something which is, a lot of people have come back, people I don't even know. Sometimes we'll get in touch, they'll drop a mail, or find your number, send you a text saying that I read this, it really resonated with me, or I was going through a certain
Mm,
phase in my life and I read this, it helped me through that phase. So you just never know, once the writing is there, who it's reaching, what all impact it's creating. But what you know for sure is that it does create impact, because words are very
right.
powerful, and information is very,
Absolutely.
very empowering for people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I write. It's really just to spread awareness, to keep the dialogue kind of open, like let's talk as much as we can about all these things that make so much of a difference to our life.
Wonderful. Binay, you've constantly reinvented yourself, and you've constantly been on that path of the term in Eastern philosophy, or the concept of Kaizen, continuous development into bettering yourself. And Spiti Valley is your spiritual oxygenation, if I can call it like that. And here also, you've done a lot of extensive work with children and the monasteries, and it's been a meditative work for you, which has also
Mm.
been around all these areas of mental health and all that you do. Tell us about that.
As you rightly said, Itu, Spiti is a very, very special place for me. I don't know what the connection is, but there's some really deep connection. The moment I'm there,
Hmm.
it's like automatically moving into a state of being completely zen. It's something
Hmm.
about the energy, about the people. It's magical, and it is home. It's my spiritual home. And the connections I've had there have been so deep and so pure,
Hmm.
and unfortunately so fragile, because we ended up losing some of our closest friends over there very tragically. But that apart, I think one of the learnings, deep learnings that came from there, uh, was just the idea of what mindfulness means outside of books. So you can study the theory of it, but when you go there, you really live the practice of it in every which way possible.
Hmm.
Be it being mindful about the very fragile environment, what you're consuming, what you're bringing to that environment,
Hmm.
how you're impacting it,
Hmm.
or be it spending time with the monks in the monasteries or with the nuns, and all of whom are very pragmatic mostly, and very approachable and extremely humorous people. And they give you such a different perspective. You think monks and nuns are really serious, but actually, the more evolved they are, the funnier and wittier they are as people.
Yeah.
So it's been a learning in so many different ways for me about,
Hmm.
like I said, about mindfulness, about meditation, about, even I do a lot of research. I've been trying to do my own personal research on sound healing for a long time, and how different sounds work, on the body and on the mind. So a lot of time has been spent with the monks while they're chanting in different spaces, and to see the impact of how space and chanting, different sorts of sounds, create a different impact physically on the
Different
body,
frequencies. Yeah.
different frequencies. So that was one part of the learning for me, and
Hmm.
also, humility, and to understand when you're in a place like that is when you understand that no matter what you think of yourself, you are so insignificant in the larger scheme of things.
Right.
Because when you're in city, it is such a harsh geographical environment that
Right.
your life can tip at any minute, be it like running out of oxygen and getting edema, be it those fragile passes that those precarious passes that you're driving through, and you could be
Hmm.
down a gorge for many thousands of feet if you don't pay attention. So you're mindful all the time, and it's beautiful. But then it also is that, how does that work in a cyclical way, where you're taking, but you're also kind of giving something back? And that's been I think it's a very organic cycle that's happened for me. So it
Hmm.
started from, when we were working with the monastery for monk from Komik. And then ever since, doing every time I'm there, I like to work with the younger monks and the nuns who are still being trained.
Hmm.
And a lot of those conversations, so it's not that I have to teach them grammar, or there's, texts or anything. They're qualified teachers who are already there for that. But
Hmm.
it's interesting to teach them things like, for example, if you talk about, what does compassion really mean outside of the texts and the books. Now,
Right.
they're young kids, so they're reading
Hmm.
about compassion because this is supposed to be Buddhism and all that. But then you see them like throwing a stone at a dog. So then you come back and you say, okay, the next class I'm doing with you is to understand what is compassion.
Yeah.
So if you believe that souls are reborn, which they do very deeply believe in the Buddhist culture, then that could be your grandmom. You just threw a stone at that doggy over there. So you cannot be unkind. And what does that look like for a child? Because they're still regular children, right? The parents may put them in the
Right.
monastery, but they're like children studying. So how
Right.
do you teach them a deeper layer of things which may not be
Mm,
taught only in the structure of the religious,
mm,
the training that they are getting? So I do a lot of work with that, with
mm,
like ethics, with compassion, and also very, very importantly, cultural preservation, because these young
mm.
monks and nuns are the people who are the influencers over there for the youth and for tomorrow, because it's a very, very devout society. One thing that holds them all in
Right.
common is the monastery that binds them together because they have so
Mm,
much faith. So the change is
mm,
happening so fast. I have found it extremely important to keep talking to these future influencers and saying that you cannot let go of your very, very unique culture, because so much of the outside influence is getting bombarded onto you in the valley. And how do you strike that balance? So giving them examples of, I often quote to them the example of Bhutan, show them pictures and how they've managed so beautifully to be modern, but at the same time to just hang on so dearly and preserve their own identity as a nation, as people. So that for me is a critical discourse which happens over there. And then, of course, we've been talking about mental health. Everyone thinks that you're sitting in the upper Himalayas, you must be just, so zen all the time. But people have real problems and people have mental health problems. And a lot of the youth is depressed because they don't have the same opportunities that now they can see on TV, that, oh, people seem to have such a good life. Now they've got internet. So the more the exposure, the more you're thinking everyone's life is better and mine is so hard. And then there's a cycle of depression. Also comes with the harsh winter. It comes with the fact that, they can't really meet all their aspirations the way they want to. They can't go out and explore those opportunities
mm.
because of financial reasons and so on. So a lot of the
Right.
conversations that are happening there are also happening on that front.
Yeah.
So this is
Right.
pretty much, the kind of loose framework of what happens in Spiti. Unfortunately, haven't been able to go there this year, which is very sad. But yeah, back there
So,
soon, hopefully.
I have been talking a lot, and when I had initially started working, I had come upon this concept of slow living, with slow
Hmm.
eating, slow living as a concept. And I
Yeah.
feel now it is so, so important to kind of, take some learnings from there and bring it into our lives, because we're losing out so much in this space where everything is quick, snap at the finger and you get it. And everything
Mm.
insta, as we say, insta fame, and insta children, and everything is like Snapchat and all of that. Everything's so
Yeah.
quick, and we need to go back there. And especially in the times that we are sitting right now. And very nicely
Mm.
you talk about Bhutan as the we all know it's the happiest nation in the world, but there's also one concept that they talk of, and we speak of this concept in a lot at our Mojo Inspirator books that Jerry is researched and written, and a concept that we're taking to colleges, which he will touch upon later, is death.
Mm.
That in Bhutan, children are told to stop and understand that the fragile life that we have, which is death is inevitable, and that's the only truth
Mm.
of life. And science has proven that once you know the fact and thought that you're going to die one day, it's only temporary. You live a better life, you lead a better life, you lead a happier life. And I will leave that for Jerry to speak later. But this is my last question, and then I'll invite Jerry back into the conversation. Is that COVID has also changed for good. One concept of the COVID pandemic has also opened the Pandora box of another pandemic which was looming so large uh,
Mm.
over our heads like a sword, was mental health. and the narrative around it has become more open, more acceptable. Sweden actually, came out about the pandemic, that mental health pandemic is, yes, there. uh, and some more countries have come out. So what is it, I would want to know your views on that as well. And I know you've been working on that, and I personally also, in my space as a mental health interventions that I do with my clients, that that's kept me so busy. And there is no age. There are people from 3, 4, 5 to any age. It's affecting everyone, but the
Mm,
youth is most affected in this age group, I would say.
mm. So, see, let me ask you, Itu, do you know
Mm.
anybody at all, even one person, who from the age of 0 to 80 or 75 had no physical problem whatsoever? They didn't fall, they didn't cut their finger, they didn't hurt themselves, they didn't have an illness. Do you know even one such person?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying because I quote that example.
Because the thing is, it's people don't understand that mental health
Mm.
is a continuum, like your
Absolutely.
physical health. And it is nothing to feel ashamed about, because if you can go and talk about your diarrhea and constipation to people, and you don't think that is an
Also,
awkward
a small
conversation to,
pimple.
or yes, or a pimple, or even something otherwise as grave as, okay, you've got cancer or whatever it may
Yeah,
be, if you can talk
yeah,
about all those things, why is it that we treat our mind so differently and give it such stepmotherly treatment all the time?
yeah.
Because it is not realistic to
Mm.
expect that the mind will not go through a continuum of health up and down. It'll be different for different people. Some people will have more, just like a physical health problem. Some people are more sickly, some people are less sickly. But
Yeah,
everyone will have a phase where your mental health will not be optimal, just like your physical health. It could be
right,
triggered by an external factor, something that happens in life. It could be triggered by a physical illness or some sort of loss that you've been through. It could be triggered by such a variety of factors, none of which are anything to be ashamed of. So, the very first thing about mental health is that we need to just stop, like, walking on eggshells when the topic of mental health comes. We need to embrace it more openly, be more
yeah,
candid in our conversations about it. And
right,
the more people talking about it openly, the less of a stigma it is naturally going to become.
yeah,
So, one part of mental health is that, and yes, there are a lot more mental health issues happening right now, and a lot of them do have to do with a younger generation. And a big reason for that is that the resilience of the younger generation, by and large, is much lower.
mm,
They are not being taught resilience at home, at school. It is such an important thing because it affects your mental health, your ability to bounce back, your ability to say that life is not about like one hit and I'm down from the horse, I'm never going to climb it again.
right,
So, a simple thing, a lot of, schools abroad sometimes are trying this experiment of giving very young kids these little, those bouncy dolls. You knock them over and they come up again, and knock them and they come up
yeah,
again.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they give them these dolls and they make the children identify with the dolls as
right,
being sort of, symbolic of them. And
yeah,
they say, okay, knock it around and see how it comes back. Now,
yeah,
you need to start actually infusing that thought from a very, very young age, because times are changing, things are changing, jobs are
mm,
going to shrink, because as there's more and more AI taking over, this is a
mm,
reality. You will
right,
have lesser jobs, you will have lesser friends, you will have lesser human interaction, and therefore it is becoming a more isolated life.
mm,
So, how do we make sure that we're being mindful of our mental health by keeping our real life connections alive, by keeping a purpose other than our work alive? Because
mm,
that's really important. You need to have some purpose which goes beyond your profession, so that tomorrow everything is not hinged on your profession, everything is not hinged on your family. there is a purpose away from that, something which is not too selfish, but something where you get a helper's high even by doing something for others. Then we need to have gratitude. Again, people seem to be losing that thought altogether. Everyone puts hashtag gratitude, so blessed, and this and that. But are they actually thinking about it? Like, what does it mean at that moment? Do you even genuinely mean that you're blessed? Did you feel
Hmm.
that, register it, and then type it? So there is a lot of talk around it, but there's not a lot of assimilation at a deeper
Right.
level. So
Right.
I think, that, like I said, your social network, not the online Facebook network, but your actual, the net of people you
Network.
can fall back on, the connections that you have, all these help your mental health a lot.
Hmm.
And then,
Right.
lastly, and very importantly, is cultivating emotional hygiene. Because just like you have time for physical hygiene, you brush your teeth, wash your face, comb your hair, all of that, you go for a workout, you have to, on a day to day basis, take out only maybe 10 minutes a day for your
Hmm.
emotional hygiene. And that involves a lot of different things like, mindfulness, checking in on your emotions, seeing that the moment you have an emotional wound, you're tending to it the moment, just the way you'll tend to a little cut on your finger, for instance, so that it doesn't build up, build up, build up to something which becomes a lot deeper and unmanageable later. So I think people should also explore and, dig deeper into the whole emotional hygiene part, into the resilience part. You're so much into academics, and you're talking so much about so many things, this so well, that resilience is something that has to be taught as a life skill. It should literally, it's so important that we need to put it in, curriculums now, because
Yeah.
it's that important to the wellness of our country, of all these young people. So, yeah, I think
Hmm.
it's a factor, it's a
So
mixture of all these things. We manage to tweak it, we'll have better mental health.
So, Binda, you talk our language, and as I was telling you offline, that we are embarking on another journey, and we've been doing a lot of work that we are taking to schools also. We soft launched
Mm.
that last year. What you're calling resilience is vulnerability. How do you need to celebrate your vulnerability, because it triggers whole lot of powers within you, and that's how
Yeah,
you bring it out, and also having a purpose in life,
yeah,
and we call that we call them the missionary passiopreneurs, using the word passio in Latin, which means endurance, which means courage, which means resilience, which means going through the
mm,
mill and the drill and the grill, and having a
yeah.
purpose in life, and make the world a little
Mm.
better place. I'm going to invite Jerry back into the conversation, because he's going to talk more in detail and more deftly on this subject, and have more
Yeah,
insights sharing with you on that. Welcome, Jerry.
yeah.
Namaste,
Get bad
Bindya.
connection while you're trying to.
So namaste once again, Bindya.
Pardon, we lost you.
Namaste, Jerry ji.
Okay. So yes, some great insights there. Uh, One of the first thing which I must share as an insight, I mean, I completely kind of empathize with what you spoke about, how you felt you needed to get out of media, because my last venture in the for-profit space was in media and entertainment, and I saw the
Uh-huh.
industry so close, the movie industry, the music industry so close. I
Yeah.
realized that this is not my value system, you know what I mean. And then there came a time when I just wanted to flee, and that's how I think I ended up joining the profit not non-profit sector, till I realized that the non-profit sector is more corrupt than the for-profit sector. But anyway, I
Mhm.
completely agree with you, and the entire value system today has gone from bad to worse. I mean,
Yeah.
18 years later, it's around 18, 19 years ago that I hung my boots in that space,
Mhm.
and it's more about um, the ha ha he he who without any substance, without any content. The shallowness, the hollowness is just a little too much to fathom. And I think that is the shallowness which is there, not just in the media and entertainment sector. Of course, over there it's a lot more stark because it's showbiz, but it's there overall in our society. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Including in the corporate
Yeah.
sector, you will see. I mean, people's mental health. How can they be mentally well the culture, the workplace is toxic. So we see this as a manifestation of different intelligences. And in our Mojo Inspirator book, we've covered the lessons in our first Karmakari Kid Power book, where I told parents, learn from kids how to be happy, how to be humane, how to be holistically healthy, because you can learn from observing kids who are pure of mind, pure of heart, pure of spirit, because they have not yet got corrupted by the ways of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great learning to learn from kids. That's why I call it kid power. The ideals are still high, the the straightforwardness, the candor is still high. We've still not learned the art of guile. We've still not learned how to wear masks, which I think is the big problem of human beings, that we end up wearing masks. In psychological studies, it's called persona, because we pay more attention to personality, which is a derivative of the word persona, and persona in Latin means mask. So you are never able to show yourself the way you are, because you have to wear that mask. What will society think? You I mean it's like people who are closet drinkers, or you should see the NGO sector. They're full of them, right? they they
Yeah, I
they
know.
they,
I've
they,
worked
they,
a lot with
they,
them.
they won't drink in a party, but they'll have bottles in their closet, in their hotel closet. And I'm like, why can't you just drink in front of everybody? There is nothing to show. You're just another human being. You're not God, you're not a saint. And you're not surely an activist, because you're a paid employee over here who can't raise his voice against his own boss. So how do you call yourself an activist? God damn it!
Mm.
So we wear too many masks. And of course, the NGO sector was the most disillusioning sector for me, because I said, all sectors are. I thought the third sector, as it is called, would have been a little more conscious. But anyway, we won't go there. The other thing which I picked from you is, yes, and that's one of the reasons I gave the media and entertainment sector. And I think now, if I have to go back, I won't last a
Mm.
day, because it works on it
I hope
works
that.
it works on corruption, it works on favoritism, it works on whose ass you can lick. And I'm not a lick ass guy at all, because I believe in kicking ass. So it doesn't work. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think Raj, your husband, was also from the same
Yeah.
sector earlier, right? And I remember
Yeah.
Raj was there with you in the first fellowship where I met both of you. And I liked him. There's something very nice and uh, what can I call it? I won't call it divine or spiritual. There's something serene about him, right? There's
He's
something
a
which
nice,
is sorry.
I
he's a
would say
really nice
serene
guy.
here.
Yes,
He's
that's what I
great.
meant. That you can tell, right? I mean, you can tell a person. The other thing you spoke about is self-esteem. Uh,
Mhm.
and self-esteem. One thing which has gone missing in our world today is that empathy has gone missing in our world, and apathy has taken over. So apathy is huge. The other thing which has gone missing in our world today is self-esteem. We don't
Mhm.
have self-esteem, and this is directly related to all what I call as the five intelligences in the Mojo Inspirator book, and I'll take you through that. Is mental, emotional, spiritual, and fourth is moral, which not too many people have ever touched, without realizing that when you stay silent about wrongs happening, also that has a bearing on your mental health. People
Mm.
don't realize it, right? So you think you're silent because you're not doing anything wrong, but hey, you're not raised your voice against wrong also. So that has a bearing on your conscience, whether you like it or not, and that's going to affect your guilt, because human
Mm.
beings are victims and products of guilt, right? That's why charities thrive by making them feel good, or that's how most religions survive, by telling them, go, don't worry, you can sin, but come and confess or pay an indulgence fee so that you can buy your ticket into the kingdom of heaven. But you're so messed up over here that your life while you were here has been a living hell,
Mm.
because you
Yeah.
don't you don't have a balance of the five intelligences, and the fifth is the physical intelligence. Now if you see, the self-esteem is missing, and I'm going to connect it to what you all were talking about, which is, in any aspect of life, fast is not fast, slow is fast. If you really want to
Mm.
savor the life, what this poet called as he said, what is this world, what is this world if full of care we have no time to stand and stare, right? I forget who the poet was. I think it was Wordsworth, if I'm not mistaken, or Longfellow, one of them. uh, you don't make the time, right? You go to a school, you will see parents taking selfies because of the stupid weapon of mass destruction, right? They'll be taking selfies. Their child is performing larger than life over there, right? And they miss that. There is a videographer, there is a photographer appointed by the school. Just buy the photos, no? They won't even go into those videos that they're taking selfies. Now they miss that entire larger than life experience. You were speaking about mindfulness. There is this movie called something about Walter Mitty. I happened to see the movie on a flight. I didn't like the movie much, but there is this one scene that I liked in the movie. And Sean Penn has a cameo performance in it. He's this hotshot guy who takes pictures of wildlife, which he then sells to magazines like Nat Geo and Discovery and so on. And he's waiting in watch, waiting for the snow leopard. And Walter Mitty is looking for him to get a picture from him, which he wants to use in the last edition of whatever magazine he's working for. And he literally stumbles upon him and he trips on his leg. And this guy's like, "What are you doing here? Why you come here to disturb me?" He says, "I want that picture." He says, "Don't talk about work right now. I'm waiting in. I've been waiting patiently to catch a glimpse of the snow leopard." And then finally he sees the snow leopard in his lens, in his camera lens, and he doesn't want to. He wants to share the experience and let this guy also see it. So he says, "Okay, come watch." And Walter Mitty says, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," but he's about to move. So why don't you click him? I said, "Who told you I want to click him? I just wanted to savor the experience, right?" So I think in this fast uh, tempo life where we are so uh, kind of addicted to show more than to be more and live more, we've forgotten that it's not about posting pictures on Facebook or Instagram. It's about savoring that moment and that memory.
Yeah.
It's not a Katak moment. You know what I mean? Just because you have a camera in your phone. And research shows you, I won't say it's science, but it's research which shows you that people who take too many selfies have basic self-esteem problems.
Yeah,
And
it's actually borderline a mental illness
right,
now.
it is.
And
And all
it is,
because
yeah.
they only want to show, because they take loans, they go on holidays with money that they don't have. So they take loans on EMI and they go on holidays to exotic locations because everybody loves going abroad. And then they're not enjoying themselves over there. They're taking pictures because and instead of having a good time with the kids, they're posting on the holiday. You can see this trend during summer holidays, right? Now, and children are watching their parents and growing up like that,
Yeah.
right? And what you spoke about resilience, I mean, I understand that schools should include this as part of the curriculum. But hey, what are parents doing? You reduced education to a stupid bloody career
Mm,
and climbing a career ladder.
mm.
Because all you teach your children is that if you have a good education, you'll have a good career, you'll have a good life, you'll have a good pay packet, and you will live in luxury and comfort. Morons! Who needs to prepare children for a life of luxury and comfort? You not prepared them for adversity. You not prepared them for suffering. You not prepared them for pain. You not prepared them for hardships. You not prepared them for failure. That's why they are breaking down. So why blame the schools only? It's poor parenting. It's very poor parenting.
It's the thing is that it's a mixture of both things, right? Like this, about what I was saying was that to emphasize how important this is, it should literally be like in the curriculum. That how do we build resilience? And even what you're saying, for instance, about self-esteem. Now, most of your self-esteem is built between and before the age of 10, and the parents have a lot to do with it, right?
Okay, true.
And we don't realize, and oftentimes when I'm working, doing my counseling one-on-one with clients, they may come with an issue that exists now at the age of 30, 40, 50, whatever it may be. But when you kind of journey back and see where were the seeds of this planted, that low self-esteem, doubt, everything happened in those early developmental years. And less parents are present now in the real sense. They may be physically present, but they're so busy on their
They're
own
not,
devices.
they're not and you'll be surprised, Bindiya, because this is what I speak about, that they actually added this to the constitutional fundamental duties in 2002. India, that
Mhm.
every parent guardian will nurture his ward child at least till the age of 14. It is because of this, because they're so
Yeah.
busy owning more, because I'm defined by the car that I drive, I'm defined by the watch. I mean, people are buying luxury cars on EMI. Like I
Yeah.
told you, they're going on international holidays with EMI. So you've taken a 30 lakh or a 40 lakh loan to go on a stupid holiday. Well, you could have
Mm.
just gone maybe to Goa or Punjab and had better family time. While you were, when you
Or
go,
Photoshop.
sorry?
Some are even using Photoshop.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's ridiculous because you're going on, you try to pack in so much because it's all about keeping up with the Joneses and showing to the Joneses that I was there too. What you called as FOMO, fear of missing out. Fear of missing out is not just about missing out on a message or a post on Facebook. Fear of missing out is, why was I not there? I want to say I was here too.
Right.
A lot of people go for concerts to say I was there. I don't like the guy. I don't want to go for the concert.
Yeah.
Right? So I say become a homo, happiness of missing out here. You know,
Mhm.
right? And I think we need to kind of, put some dignity behind this word homo also. It's not a bad word. We don't need to be homophobic. And and I think that's what it is. And where I've seen parts of that Netflix film called Social Dilemma. And
Yeah.
one of the chaps rightly says that it's like you spoke about, it's an addiction. That's why he says that it's only the narcotics sector and the social media sector, the IT sector, the software sector, which calls their consumers users,
Yeah.
because you're using drugs, you're using social media. And with all due respect to the Zuckerbergs and whoever else of the world, the Dorseys of the world, who tried to kind of promote that age of 14 is the right time for a person to enroll onto Facebook. It's a nonsense. Not before the person is 16 at least. And I remember our son almost became a victim of online bullying, and he was not even on
Mhm.
Instagram or Facebook or anything. This is almost around 4 years ago when he was 12. And one of the parents in school, whose son had perpetrated that bullying incident, had the audacity to say that the school has not given us a directive that they should not be on social media. Are you daft?
Yeah.
Don't you have any common sense? Does the school have to give you a directive on everything, including how to burp? Come on. This is what I'm saying. Parents are teachers at home. So why aren't you using your time to make your parenting skills better? Why we and we as parents, we as human beings like to blame it. The school's not taken this up. Why should the school take everything up? Why should the school send you a directive that your children should not be on social media? Don't you have the common sense? And this is actually a dialogue. And I wanted to say something. I was pinched by my saner half, that because then people feel bad because you express the truth to them. It's nonsense. They have to be told like it is.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And there,
The thing is also, Jerry, most of these Silicon Valley big shots who are actually creating all these technologies, they put their own children in Waldorf schools and don't give them access to technology till
I know,
much
I know.
later because
Absolutely,
how bad it is.
because they know it's
And it's,
addictive, right?
yeah, and if you look at it, it is so mass, more than like, I don't think you can get drugs that easily. You can't even get booze that easily as you can have access to social media, for instance. And
Absolutely,
yet it's the only addiction which is unregulated.
absolutely.
There are no
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course it doesn't help that you have idiots like Chetan Bhagat who preach to the gallery, oh, children should stop using the mobile phone and stop watching porn. They are not watching porn, dude. You are idiot. But what I'm trying to say is, I have more faith in the kids and the young students because they are better than most grown-ups. I promise you, they have more responsibility. So I don't. I mean, we have two sons at home, and I don't think we don't have any locks, etc. Right? We trust them. And that's another thing. You need to trust your children, right? You need to extend trust to them, give them the values, make them aware of what is right, what is wrong. Parents don't invest time in this. I mean, how can you expect the school to do all this? Aren't you
Mm.
supposed to do something yourself too, right? So I think that's the other insight I want to give to everybody who's watching. Hopefully they will learn from you. uh, and very nice. So when you started making soft, this is something which I want to ask you, because I was involved with the launch of Discovery in India, right? And who were you working with when they commissioned your programming?
Aditya was the head of programming at that time.
Okay,
Aditya Tripathi.
was Ashok Ogra there?
No, there
Ashok
was
Ogra was the first. So okay, then you're talking much later, because we launched in 1997.
but they
And
didn't launch the programming.
no. So
So yeah,
1997 we launched with foreign programming, what
yeah,
came from the US mostly. And I remember I used to actually go to schools and make presentations and tell people, do you want your children to grow up watching Madhuri Dixit and Ek Do Teen, or do you want your children to watch some meaningful, mindful programming, and grow into better human beings and more informed citizens? I used to actually do that, as way back in 1997. And that's how we got a lot of children to demand that Discovery should be shown on the main band without paying any carriage fee. I remember the distribution and ad sales was what was outsourced to our agency, and that's how we did it.
mm,
So great.
right.
Yeah, I mean, Bindiya, excellent thoughts. And I must say over here that you've been a amazing creative entrepreneur along with Raj, and we'll send out a
Thank
mail
you.
to you tomorrow. And for this session, we'll have both you and Raj on it as our mentors in residence. And this session is more about you speaking about your life journey, so that
Mhm.
our kids and young students who, like you rightly said, have no opportunities. You said not much upon it opportunity. I am saying there's absolutely no opportunity out there, right? Because it's a socio-economic breakdown, and there are no jobs. So we've embarked on a mission called the Mojo Inspirator Life Leadership and Learning to Learn Success Summit. And we are giving them life leadership and learning to learn lessons. Like you see, this is from the Mojo Inspirator book that we put together over many years. And it's basically three mindsets, same thing that you're speaking about. Teaches you everything about coping and resilience, teaches you about character, and it is how it is your character and discipline that takes you beyond, and not just your competence and talent. So we would like, because you had a great journey from a creative entrepreneur to now being a spiritual entrepreneur, and Raj of course has his own journey. So just forward your email IDs to you. We'll send you the invitation tomorrow, and then we
Yeah.
would request another hour and a half with good broadband, because this is going to be a pre-recorded session. And the objective of this session is to inspire the youth and the young students that, hey, so what if there are no jobs out there? You can pursue your passion and transform your passion into your mission by creating your own path, by becoming a creative entrepreneur, by becoming a YouTuber, filmmaker, whatever. So while yes, the situation is grim, it is not all gloom and doom, because maybe this situation actually gives you the opportunity to say, chuck the job, I can pursue my passion, right? Now that's where we would like you, with if time permits, to have you and Raj share your journey and your story over there. And we'll send out the mail to you both tomorrow. and
I
and
just one thing though, Jerry, very
sorry.
quickly. I just wanted to add one thing very quickly, if we
Yeah,
have
please.
just 2 minutes. Is that we spoke a lot about like work and what's happened, mainstream stuff in the city, of course some stuff in Spiti and all that. But one thing I think is really important that I'd like to share is that 7 years, a little more than 7 years ago, Raj and I actually just took a call to give up the city and move to a little village over here.
Right.
And
slow is
a lot
slow
of
is fast.
slow is fast, but more than that, a lot of people came and said, oh God, like this is amazing. How did you do this? And I keep saying that if you really want to do this, anyone can do it. It's not
Absolutely.
like we were money bags or we inherited lots of money from our parents, nothing of the sort. We
Right.
didn't want to have that much money. We just said, but this is the life we want to choose. And
Right.
even now, live in a little village. We work out of a village. Raj has a tech company. We've got great like 4G over here. I do most of my sessions online, webinars, everything happens online. So we've managed to find that balance, being in the village, choosing the life we want to choose and create for ourselves,
Right.
learning how to farm, growing our own vegetables. The only thing is that you have to take a call and you cannot, if you
Absolutely.
want to do, don't say
I
my kids are not the right age. I don't have the money. I don't have this. I don't have that. So that's the only thing I want to leave the session with. That if you have a passion, if you have a dream,
no no
just go do something about it.
absolutely. And what you're saying is absolutely right. And that one word is what makes all the difference. You choose your life.
Yeah.
You choose your lifestyle, failing which you become victims of all this showbiz and tomfoolery and whataboutery. And in the end, I just want to conclude with, you spoke about dopamine rush, and that's so
Yeah.
true. And that's exactly what we've explained in our mojosh inspirator book, that too much of dopamine on any given day or at any given time does not work for you, and people don't understand that. But they have become such victims of that because their only high comes to them when they get some validation from outside, or when they think they've achieved something because they've got a salary raise or they've got a new car. And that's why retail is a happening business, because that's where people get lost with retail therapy. Instead of going and seeing a counselor and saying, I have a mental health problem, right? Retail is not therapy, it's escapism, right?
Yeah.
So anything which that's why people party so much, that's why people want to have just fun all the time. It doesn't work like that. You need to balance all the chemicals in your brain the right way. And that's where we share this learning. And we said that if you don't balance the dopamine with the serotonin, with the oxytocin, the anandamide, which is named after a Sanskrit word, and the endorphins which comes from physical exercise and so on, right? Then it won't work. So you'll see more people spending time in the spa, including men, right? And that's why most of your saloons today are unisex saloons, because men spend more time in the spa and saloon than the women, right? And God knows what all they do over there. I mean, with those cucumbers on their eyes and nonsense like that, 4 or 5 hours. But these guys won't exercise. They won't take a small walk to keep themselves fit. So it's a crazy world out there. I don't know. I mean, it's a tall task. It's a tall order. But I think I hope people who are listening understand that mental health is just like any other ailment. You guys reduced it to a pimple. So maybe it's like a pimple, but it's just like that.
No,
And
what one meant was that, we talk about even that smaller thing, but we won't talk
yeah,
about.
yeah. I mean, I get the drift, and I think sometimes with people you have to speak like you're speaking to a 12-year-old, because they don't
Yeah.
understand that it's just another flu, it's just another viral fever. So go and see a counselor, go and see a coach, go and see a person who can give you some help, go and see a clinical therapist, right? And that's what I've been trying to do. I'd shared it with you. I've kept an open thing that if you want to just be aware that you have mental, because many people don't want to be aware that they have mental health problems. They live in
Yeah.
denial. So as a coach, what I try to do is get them to that awareness stage, and then I tell them, now you have to see a clinical psychologist. I cannot help you, right? And people have to understand that you need to get help, you need to get proper professional help. Please don't go to quacks like Sadhguru, who will help you to get out of a depression in 30 seconds. These quacks have to be slammed. Bindia, that's the other thing. The quack.
The thing, Jerry, they're not very good for mental health, but there are people who have really benefit from the yoga part of it, from the kriyas and all that,
I I
physically
I
balance.
I wish, but I mean, but all said and done, there's too much
It's not
shiggery
good.
pokery. I would rather say go to a Iyengar yoga than a Isha yoga. I can't stand that man. He's a big fraud and a scamster.
Let's
Any
not
which
go
way.
there.
So that's what I mean. He's even used up poor people's land. So I mean, it can't get worse than that. But I mean, imagine you giving a discourse that I'll help you to get rid of depression in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Come on, that's
ridiculous.
bunkum. It's complete fraud. Yeah. It's fraudulent. People should be arrested for quackery like this. I take it to be quackery, right? I mean, if a medical doctor did that, he would be arrested, right? Because he doesn't have a
Yeah.
degree to practice. So then we should do that. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, thank you so much. Great insights. Pleasure learning with you. We'll send you the mail. Give my regards to Raj. and
I will.
let's have you both as our mentors in residence
Yeah.
to learn from your
Thank you.
entrepreneurial journey. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to involve Bindiya in two things. Of course, the Mills program and another thing as well. We will
As our
talk.
influencer and curator, you will have to brief her how it's done. She'll have a
We
lot
will.
of she can get you the slow or fast people, right? As our fellows.
Yeah.
All so suddenly we'll have everybody coming from the Nilgiris.
Lots of them. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Or maybe we should do a Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship next in the Nilgiris.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe it's a wonderful place to be and host anything. It
Yeah.
is really nice.
Yes, it is. So great. Have a great evening. Give my regards to Raj and thank you so much. I'll get in touch with Sudha
And
ma'am and
yes.
namaste. Thank you. Great
Thank
learning.
you.
Namaste.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bindiya.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.